Well, Ben Franklin thought it would be a good idea if we were able to communicate with each other via the Postal Service, and so he invented it. He didn't actually invent it. I mean, it had been around Europe for a long time, but he invented the American version of it, first in the city of Philadelphia, long before the American Revolution. One of our first postmaster generals, as I recall. I think Franklin was. If he wasn't, he certainly was the spiritual godfather of it. And the post office has been important, would be, to minimize its significance, part of American history, literally since the founding of this republic. And one of the extraordinary things about the post office is that for roughly 50 cents, you can send, roughly the same amount as you deflate the dollars back over time for, basically a fifth of the cost of a burger or, a third of the cost of a Coke kind of thing, that sort of cost. You can put a piece of paper in an envelope anywhere in the United States, and a couple of days later, it'll appear anywhere else, regardless of how remote that destination is. Now, all of that is the good side of the post office. The bad side of the post office, from the Republican point of view, is that the two largest employers in the United States are, number one, Walmart, which is not unionized, and number two, the Postal Service, which is unionized. 500,000 workers, union workers. And we can't have that, can we? So the Republicans in Congress put together a bill in 2006 when George Bush was president, which he signed into law, which said that the post office has to set aside, and at that point the post office, by the way, was running a surplus, so much so that they were talking about putting solar-powered vehicles on the road for as much as half of their fleet. All right, making a major investment in solar-powered cars, electric cars. So the Republicans said, no, you have to fund the retirement health benefits 75 years in advance of people who have not yet even been born but might end up employees of the Postal Service, and you have to do that full 75 years of funding over the next 10 years, which it's called a poison pill. It was guaranteed to really, really damage the Postal Service, thus to help take out that union. And the Senate has tried to fix this twice. They actually passed the legislation. The House of Representatives, controlled by the Republicans, will not have anything to do with it. Back when Nancy Pelosi was running the House did something about it, but then the Republicans in the Senate filibustered it. So we're still stuck. The post office has to pay this $5 billion a year to cover the cost of people who have not yet even been born, to cover their retirement benefits. It seems to me crazy. It doesn't seem crazy to David Seelig, though, the pro-business commentator and guest of our program, conservative commentator. His website, truetaxhelp.com. David, welcome back to the program.
Hey, Tom. Thanks for having me on. It's always a pleasure.
Well, thank you for joining us. So why do you hate postal employees?
Well, I got to tell you, I've met quite a few who made me want to go postal.
Oh, my. Come on.
What do they say? Neither snow, nor rain, nor heat, nor gloom of night.
Yeah, it's actually on the post office a few blocks from here. I mean, the old original etching, and yeah. It's true. It's true.
Tom,
these people work their butts off for us, David.
To President Bush, he passed that, Accountability and Enhancement Act of 2006, so they would pay their bills. They were concerned that they wouldn't be able to, pay these poor letter carriers
75 years from now
pensions, and now they can't live within their means. And I'll tell you why, and your listening audience why. Things have changed. The internet, the way people interact with one another. And they've lost a lot of the commerce, and yet they have picked up a lot of trade from people who do this, what is this, where you buy and sell online?
eBay stuff.
One
of my brothers is doing that with my dad's estate.
Dinosaurs at the post office are working off this old paradigm. They need some sharp MBA to come in and retool them and make it a profitable
Well, actually,
entity.
Bernie Sanders has proposed some very significant changes. Why not, let the post office be involved in a whole variety. There's a bunch of financial transactions that we could be doing at the post office. There's a lot of things. Rural post offices are community centers.
Sure.
The last thing that we should be doing is shutting them down and closing them on Saturdays. If anything, we should be expanding their venue.
I'm with you, Tom.
But they can't do that as long as they've got to set aside $5 billion a year to fund the health, the health benefits of people who retire 75 years from now who have not yet been born. No other institution in government or business has ever been asked to do this, David. It was a naked poison pill.
Tom, on most of this issue, you and I may be walking in lockstep, but that one, boy, I strenuously disagree with. they've got to be able to meet their obligations.
75 years from now?
Well, no, not 75 years from now. What they need to do is tighten up that vetting process. They hand out those psychological and disability discharges like candy.
They were, David, before this happened, in 2005 and 2006, the Postal Service was showing a profit.
Yeah, it's outrageous, and I think this.
No, it's not outrageous. It was very, very healthy. I mean, the thing that everybody thought, the Republicans said was outrageous was that they were talking about doing electric vehicles. Right. Oh, my God.
Oh, no, forget the electric vehicles. That's a bad idea.
Yeah, well, that's what the Republicans said, and so they said, let's take away the post office's money.
Well, we shouldn't do that either, and I'll tell you how we're going to suffer if they close these shops on Saturdays. We're going to lose all that tax revenue. They got like 500,000 employees who go out and they patronize local stores, and they fill up their personal vehicles so they can go to work, and they patronize different organizations, and all that's going away. And take the city.
Wait a minute. Am I hearing you speak out against austerity? Because this really is an austerity program, forcing the post office to lay off 25,000 employees. That is, we've lost 600,000 government employees since the last year of the Bush administration as the result of austerity, most of it at the state level.
Well, this isn't austerity. This is just bad planning. We don't want to close the post office. What we need is really to embrace generally accepted accounting principles and run these things like businesses. And that would be
But the post office isn't a business. No, David, wait a minute. This is the problem that we had, for example, about the Rural Electrification Administration, the REA?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And the reason that Roosevelt had to push that through was because the utilities, the electric utilities, were run as businesses by businesses, and they said, it's really cheap to go from house to house and provide electricity in a city, but it's really expensive to run a long line out to the country, and so screw the people in the country. We're not going to do it.
Yeah, we don't want that.
Right. Well, if you want the post office to run like a business, they'll start making those same kind of decisions. Right now, UPS and FedEx, there's a lot of places, a lot of remote places that they do not deliver to. That last mile, what's called last mile delivery, in some cases the last 300-mile delivery, is done by the post office. FedEx hands it off to the post office.
Right.
You run it like a business, though, that's going to go away.
To a local postmaster who confirmed exactly what you said, Tom. But if we could revisit that one topic, that they are doing the same things that they were doing 20 years ago, 25 years ago.
They're doing the same things they were doing 200 years ago.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is their business model has changed. The packages from eBay, the mom and pops who are trying to make a go of it in this terrible economy, and they are making a go of it.
Why don't we let the post office offer email and compete with Gmail?
We need them to keep working, and yet we cannot allow them to to run their shop where they're going to need another bailout. Isn't that so?
I'm wondering, why can't I go to the post office and register to vote? Why can't I go to the post office?
Right, and we should. But you want to know something? If there comes a day when we are able to go to the post office to register to vote, we need some way to verify that people are in fact citizens.
Oh, that's a whole nother argument. My point is that, and I guess we're not disagreeing on this, that Bernie Sanders has a whole variety of good options that he's suggesting that the post office could and should be doing. And my question to you is, why are Republicans refusing to allow the post office to do these things?
Well, I don't think they are, but
they are.
In the event they are getting in the way of good common sense ideas, then I'm opposed to that, Tom.
Okay, well, I'm pleased to hear that.
I'm not walking lockstep with these individuals.
Okay, I honor that, David. David Seelig, pro-business commentator and advocate, conservative commentator, and your website is
TrueTaxHelp.com.
TrueTaxHelp.com. David, thanks for being with us today.
Thanks, Tom. Auf Wiedersehen.
Auf Wiedersehen. Auf Wiederhören. I'll hear you later. Talk to you later, David. 15 minutes past the hour.